The one thing I really learned, and it really just hit home.
So the big question is, what are top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? To get the answers, we interview top real estate agents to learn their secrets to success. Listen, we believe every agent should make a minimum of $100,000 per year, and we're on a mission to make this happen. We've already helped over 100 agents achieve this with our coaching. So if you want to fast track your business growth, get to your first $100,000 in GCI or add another $100,000 in GCI using social strategies, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com, or you can just click the link in the description below. Also, just make sure to follow us, hit that subscribe button, and if you get any value from this at all, please tell a friend and leave us a review. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Elite Agent Secrets show. Today we've got Josh Gehrig with us. He's been in the real estate industry now for 10 years. He actually started in commercial and private equity before moving to a brand new city, setting up a brand new boutique brokerage, did 18 plus million in 2021, on track, or the goal is, should I say, to do 35 to 40 million in 2022. Most importantly, he's a husband and a father. He likes a bit of endurance athlete style stuff. I'm going to throw it out there. Sounds like hell, but listen, you're good at real estate. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Josh. We're going to be breaking down some cool shit today. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Andrew. Thanks, brother. Doing very well. Appreciate having me on the show.
This is going to be fun, right? I feel like every real estate professional is an endurance athlete.
Especially in today's market. I mean, offer after offer, like whether you're on the list.
It's a contact sport, baby. It's like jab, jab, jab. Sometimes you get an uppercut and you get a knockout, get that baby on their contract, right? But
man,
I tell you what, I started training recently, something that Andrew doesn't do a whole lot.
I go to McDonald's, but I drive.
That's the exercise that you get.
I feel like whatever floats your boat, right? I mean, like if it's you, then it fits. Yeah.
Listen, I race cars. Like I'm in motorsport. I do some type of exercise. That's my exercise.
The exercise that he does is fixes his car because he crashes it every weekend that he goes out and races.
Honestly, I don't come on the show to get shit talked.
No, but this is the reason why I'm bringing this up is because obviously you're highlighting that you're an endurance athlete, which tells me that you're dedicated to your health, not only your wealth and your business, which we on the show talk about, like the balance of whatever, anybody's definition is in that. And obviously this is something that you must be very passionate about, right? Because we know your topics, Andrew mentioned them. We're not going to dive into the third topic, but being relentless. But I'm assuming in order to be in the industry for 10 plus years, be a husband, be a father, have such big volume and aspirations, it had to start somewhere. So Take us back to like day one. Give us a little bit of context around the story and how you're also passionate and you are an endurance athlete and doing all these other amazing things while still performing at a high level in your real estate business.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to set it up, Peter. I mean, geez, that's really good. But to break it down, it's like it's probably started. It started years and years and years ago, right? And I'm only human, but I had a grandfather who was a retired naval officer and got to spend a lot of time with, and so those ingrained habits and discipline were probably, brought forth at a young age just by osmosis of being, part of our family unit. But the real habits, I guess, with the endurance side started when I was in high school. I ran track in high school, played football, and had just a really relentless passion to not give up. Right? I mean, nobody wants to give up. So I didn't know I was good at track until I was at like track practice, and the one dude who set the 2-mile school record for our school, I was, running side by side as a freshman with him in practice, and all the coaches were kind of like taking note. And mind you, I ran track in 7th grade. not eighth grade, and then showed up because my football coaches were, some of them were also our track coaches. And so they're like, hey, if you want to get time on the field, you might as well think about showing up for track too. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't really have a choice. So
is that the same thing with real estate?
You got to show up on the field every day, right? Whether you really want to or not. And so, yeah, not to dive into that. Long story short, was really developing as a young high school track athlete, and later went on my sophomore, junior, and senior year to set the 2-mile school record. Just missed the mile school record. And the thing about endurance, and I want to say about track and life in general, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. So cliche to hear that, but it's really the mental toughness. Especially relating that to real estate right now. I mean, if you don't have the tenacity and drive to get your head kicked in, 5 different times in a day.
Only 5?
Only 5, exactly.
Shit, Andrew, we're doing something wrong. Yeah. I counted 5 before I got in the office this morning.
Okay, maybe it's 10. I don't know. That number's probably going to go up before the end of the quarter. But yeah, I mean, it's just that you hear the grind and all that, and we're all in this business for different reasons, right? I mean, some of us think freedom. What does freedom mean to you? Some people, it's financial, right? Some of them, it's giving back and building a legacy with their name and agents they develop. I don't remember who quoted this, but a definition of a leader is somebody who develops a leader who then develops a leader. And, there's a lot of truth in that, right? That takes a lot of skill. And
it's really fucking hard. It's really hard. Yeah. Leadership. The biggest misconception with leadership is people think it's you telling people what to do. And it's like, you are way out. Like, you are so wrong. It's like if you were going to try and highlight it like that, it's like you telling people what to do and then feeling happy and fulfilled that you have. Oh, it's like it's another level. It's like not only are they doing it, but like they're doing it because they want to do it and they fulfilled with doing it. And they also understand that some days are shit and they still do it. And it's like leadership, even summing it up like that, doesn't do it justice because of how fucking difficult it is. People just think when you boss people around, like you're a leader, and you're like, no, that's the difference between a boss and a leader.
I'll tell you the fastest fucking way to have people leave you is boss them around, right? Just you got to lead them in a way that I hate to say analyze, but you have to complement their weaknesses with your strengths and vice versa, right? That's how you build a team, and that's how you build a really solid team. And we have. What do we have right now? We have 3 different independent coaches that are coaching, consulting, whatever you want to call it, our organization to grow to, levels that we want to see it at. And each one has a different facet that their strengths are within. And so
take us back then. Just give us a brief overview. 10 years back, give or take 10 years you've been in real estate. Walk us through what did your first year, second year, third year, and then fast forward to the last couple of years through the pandemic. Were you a star born again? And it was I did 50 deals my first year, or was it I did 3? Take us on your journey.
Right. Yeah. So, diving back, and for real estate, for me, it actually goes back further than 10 years. And just a snapshot of kind of what that looks like. My family has been in the real estate industry back in Southeast Michigan for, my whole life. I had a very successful aunt who built up a Coldwell Banker franchise and name and sold it off, I believe, in the early 2000s, and residential real estate predominantly, an investment. I would have never thought I would have been in real estate today talking to both of you, just because it was osmosis, right? I understood my dad and uncle, they helped build houses, and I've swung a hammer and built, I've framed a house and roofed. And so for me, that part of the real estate industry was just always organic. Fast forward, go to college. I got a degree in business management and finance. went to actually work in the financial markets, worked in the futures markets and the commodity markets for several years, and which really set me up for the opportunity that I had jumping into real estate probably within the last, what we would call 10, 11 years. So that brought me to, it's funny how introductions work in life, right? I mean, they're just the most, I don't know how to explain it, probably unorganized, messed up way of like where your life will meander and go. Had a former colleague that introduced me to a gentleman who built this phenomenal agricultural real estate behemoth company. It was actually the largest ag asset management company in the country. They were in several states or several countries. I mean, built this thing in the upward figures of the billions and sold it off. And so then I got the opportunity and the fortune to partner with this gentleman as a as kind of a junior member early on in the startup of his second real estate company. And so for about from about 2011 to 2016, the summer of 2016, actually, I was involved predominantly in the commercial private equity arena of real estate, with the emphasis on transitional development, predominantly agricultural land. So I grew up on a farm. So grew up in Southeast Michigan. Detroit was like an hour and 20, 30 minutes away. So, I mean, I wasn't like a hick in the sticks and like you had to drive forever to go to a city. No, we were pretty close to Detroit, Ann Arbor. So that just fell into place. And lo and behold, I didn't realize that at the early part of my career with that firm, I was building my solid foundation to launch my own real estate company, right? I worked with a lot of extraordinarily high net worth clients, clients where you would literally, wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, jump on their private jet, go look at a piece of property, fly back all before noon and, do your analysis. And that is a different way of thinking. It's a different way of doing business, but
sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah. Sign me up for the jet.
Thinking, where do I get into this get on a jet? Like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I think you're the first person who's gone, I was in a business where I got up at 6 a.m., got a private jet, was back by noon after doing 2 flights to look at one house.
It's just a totally different way of doing business. But the one thing I really learned, and it really just hit home, like they're human beings, right? Whether you have $1 million, $1,000, or, call it $1 billion towards your name, these people, at the end of the day, they all appreciate the core values and the respect, the value of trust, hard work, more importantly, and just being open, honest, and real. Like they don't want to hear BS, and they don't want to always hear what they want to hear. They want the truth. And that's probably the fastest way I built rapport, was just being a good person and doing all the things that I would want in their shoes. And it opened a lot of doors very quick. So, the largest transaction with the group that I think we did at the time in commercial real estate, in those settings, it's not like, hey, I've got a buyer, you've got a seller, we're going to put a contract together to do a deal. I mean, there are multitudes of layers. Like you have several attorneys, you have multiple buyer levels, you have the institutional players, the high net worth guys, you have so many different facets of the commercial bubble arena, if you will, that takes to do one deal. And so most of those transactions are going to be 6, 12, 18 months to get to the closing table, even if they get to the closing table, because commercial real estate, let's face it, the majority of the time it's unemotional. It's a numbers game. Like, does this make sense to do, or does it not? And probably the frustrating thing behind the scenes is there's other competing markets, right? So we focused in agricultural transitional development, and you may have office space, you may have multifamily, you may have forestry, you may have all these other competing commercial asset classes that are, essentially trying to suck your capital or your clients away. And it's all driven by ROI predominantly. I won't want to say it's all driven by ROI, but the relationship matter is a huge piece of it. But
was that what forced you then to go to look at the residential side, these long deals?
I love doing what, the farmland transitional development, working with high net worth clients. I really love that. I knew deep in my soul, I started my first company with my business partner. He's still my business partner today. Outside of the real estate brokerage, we do other investment deals together. He's 25 years older than me. I started my first company when I was 21, and we grew that into a successful company at that time. So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it sounds like I've got a background call coming in. Good. Anyways, what I learned then is that I have an entrepreneur background. Like I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Like I really, truly want to just build something and have a legacy that gives back, not necessarily financially, but always in a sense that is, fruitful for other people's lives, like developing them into leaders, developing them into other key, key people in an organization, whether it's my own or somebody else's, right? So I always knew that was the avenue I was going to go, was the entrepreneurial side. So fast forward to 2016, right? My wife today actually lived here in Tulsa. And at the time we weren't married, so you can see where the story's going from here, right? It worked out to where I kind of came to a crossroads with my life of, you know what, it's either shit or get off the pot, take the jump of faith, or like know that, if you're not working towards your dreams, building them up every day, you're building somebody else's. And that's not a wrong piece or a place to be, right? Because there's successful CEOs out there that work for somebody else, or they work for a board of shareholders that they work for somebody else, and they are financially very successful. They are spiritually very successful, all big pictures successful, right? So it was made the decision that, hey, I think that for me, I need to take the plunge and start my own thing in real estate. So that entailed me actually moving from where I was in Iowa at the time living, and transitioning to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which I knew very few people, let's be real. I mean, it was like family. Nope. Don't have a single soul here. Friends. Know a couple through my wife. But that was really the plunge and moment of my professional career, and obviously in my relationship career too. Right. So that came in 2016. My wife, obviously, we went on to marry my wife, love my wife. We've been together for many years, actually since about 2011. So put her through the long track.
There's a slight part of me, this sadistic comedy that I like, where I can't imagine someone being on the show and being like, I've been married to my wife, just to hate her. Just go like completely flipping the switch. Everyone's just expecting you go, I love her to death. She's the best thing that ever happened. And someone just finally coming on the show being like, it's a terrible decision. And just really like throwing everybody off the game. We'll be here. No one, unless
that would probably be the divorce papers have been served or will be served in the next foreseeable 5 minutes of listening to this podcast.
Listeners are just listening to what's going on. But like, so that's how you transition. So was this a couple of years ago? You moved. When was the Tulsa move and the brokerage build then? Because obviously now you run your own indie brokerage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I did learn, right, is you don't know what you don't know, and naive is bliss. Being naive is sometimes bliss, and it's also sometimes your biggest asset and your biggest detriment, right? So,
totally.
I've always bought investment properties, residential properties. I even when I was in the commercial arena, I was buying single family rental properties, duplex, fixing them up, not really flipping them, but holding them for long-term revenue and growth, which is what we all, love about real estate. Right. So, I got thinking, what it takes to do a commercial deal. Right. I mean, I have the relationships, the strengths, also at the same time, I don't know if it's John C. Maxwell's that says this or Tony Robbins or one of the, national speakers says you want to leave well, right? So what I did when I left the organization that, I had previously been with for 5.5 years, there was no animosity from my part. There was no synergy. There was no like, yeah, I'm leaving. See you later. It was for me, it was like a moment in my life where I wish everybody well. And I knew on the horizon where I was going. And I wanted to be able to call on any one of those key members and former colleagues and say, hey, look, I need a favor. Right. And if they called me, I wanted to be able to do the same. And, so that leaving well with the previous firm and company really got me thinking of, well, I don't want to go, steal clients, or I don't want to, go head to head and compete in that industry. And I mean, let's face it, that industry takes a lot more time to do a deal. And so that really got me thinking, why not residential, right? You're 30 to 45 days in a transaction. You've got a pipeline that you can work leads in, but essentially for all practical purposes to get to the finish line, it's 45 days. So I knew the cash flow cycle would be a pretty quick one. And all I had to do is find people that wanted to do business. And, growing up with some solid family core values and just, treating others how they want to be treated, I didn't ever really have a fear that I wasn't going to be able to find clients and help them. And so, that path kicked off for me in 2017. I actually started my own endeavor here in Tulsa. I actually partnered with a Coldwell Banker franchise in town and actually became a licensed agent with them for a couple of years. And the reason was great organization. We have one of the best Coldwell Banker independently owned franchises in the country here. Know the owners well. They're outstanding people. But one of the things that I knew I didn't know was the market, right? And so I wanted that brain think of, hey, yeah, I could launch my own brokerage today, but I'd really be doing myself a disservice and my clients potentially a disservice by not understanding and knowing the market and learning it as fast as I could. So from 2017 to 2020, I worked under Coldwell Banker here in town as an agent with their franchise. Again, just grew production numbers really rapidly. I think when I left there, I was doing. I would have to pull the exact numbers. I want to say I was doing probably around 8 million independently there, 7 to 8 million. And so. Fast forward March 2020, coronavirus pandemic hit the United States, full-fledged, hammered here in Oklahoma. I had started the independent brokerage that I now own with my wife in January of 2020. So we
3 months of bliss.
we didn't know what the hell we were doing, right, when we were jumping in as far as well, of course we knew what we were doing, but when I'm saying like we didn't know what we were doing when like the pandemic hit, it was like I remember telling my wife this. I'm like, this is either going to be like really, really good, or it's going to be like, hey, we're probably going to be finding something else to do at the time. And I didn't have to worry about that. Being an entrepreneur, I always knew I could make money. And of course, I fiscally am probably one of the most tightest people my wife will tell you on this earth. I squeak when I walk. I save and invest. But, that's what allows you to make those game winning shots and those difference makers. So when we launched the brokerage, it was full-fledged feet to the ground, right? Hired an assistant, an executive admin right away, knew that we wanted to increase headcount, knew that we had to dial in systems and processes, which for the lack of, I would say, 2017 to 2019 in the residential real estate space, you started reading more about what Gary Keller was publishing, the one thing, dialing in systems and processes. Teams were always in the scenes, but they were starting to become more powerful. Some teams were starting to become even larger than some brokerages in town. And so, I learned early on in 2019 that if I was going to take the plunge and do this on my own, I needed to get some really solid systems and, processes in place and document those and start really, really dialing and building those in. So
I think that rolls us quite nicely, if I can jump into your first topic, actually, which is something that we enjoy, being nerds and being an engineer by trade, which is track everything you do. So why is track everything you do your first secret to success?
I will say it is what you can measure. You can
manage.
You can manage. You can adjust. You can maneuver. Like, the beauty of being a small boutique brokerage, and it's no secret, right? So like I'm the speedboat with the whales in the ocean. I've got, the big box franchises who, I respect greatly, but at the same time, it takes a lot of momentum to move that ship. Whereas I can look at the numbers, I can look at what our conversion rates are, our lead generation, our marketing and branding spend, and make really precise decisions and maneuver that ship a lot faster and quicker to capture a trend or a tide than what it takes to move a, several billion-dollar company. And so tracking has allowed us to make better decisions. It's allowed us to make more profitable decisions. It's allowed us to help make decisions of, hey, maybe I need to step back out of production to manage more, or, hey, I need to bring in somebody to manage this for me. And, coming from a finance background, I love accounting. I love finance and tweaking the numbers and seeing what I can push out of something. So, it's just ingrained from college to my first really big real estate career to now, it's just really kind of just been, part of me.
Got a couple of questions for you then. First one is around the actual tracking mechanism, like softwares and things you use. And then my second one would be, I think for our listeners would be valuable, is if you could give insight or hindsight, I guess, to some of the decisions that you have been able to move either towards or away from. If there has been some in the last couple of years that have actually either, you've actually dodged a bullet or you've seen growth because of that kind of speedboat mentality that or not mentality, but the speedboat like essence of your business.
Yeah. So, we use Sisu. In fact, we've recently started to implement Sisu. I say recently, it was, end of last year. We traditionally had, like a lot of, I feel like, fastly growing startup companies, a lot of spreadsheets and QuickBooks, which work. But automation, you being the engineer, automation, it makes life so much simpler and faster and more economical and efficient. And I say that last word, efficient, because that's what Sisu has done to our business. What I would say, shifting from maybe missing, a meteoroid screaming at our business was when COVID hit. Our predominant intake of new clients, we're heavy online lead generation. We can talk more about that when later in the show. But at that time, when March came, a lot of the online lead gen sources just like freeze. And I think that was everything in general. The world was processing what the heck was going on, what the hell is going to happen. And we're all sitting here too. And I knew the best thing I could do was cut expenses where I could cut expenses. But I also knew from a lot of my financial counterparts in my previous careers that, you don't kill the golden goose that's laying the eggs in a situation like that. So I was actually thinking the opposite. I'm like, how can I ramp up my marketing? How can I ramp up my my lead generation? And, when everybody's running for the hills, I'm buying all I can. That's the trader mentality. I still trade my own account to this day from, the futures market side. But I seen that And I seen some opportunity within Zillow and started to slowly trickle more and more money into that. And so that really helped increase our growth rapidly in that time period. And I don't want to say it was all me or a decision, right? That's ego speaking if you say that. It's the reality of like, hey, I saw an opportunity, I executed, and the market, whoever would have thought, just went absolutely bonkers crazy in residential real estate from March 2020 on. So that was a really good kind of near miss, but absolutely opportunity when you actually broke the numbers down and looked at it. So.
Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in gaining access to our courses and coaching 100% free, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com.